What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today I want to talk to you guys about something that stood out at the end of the last manga chapter in a huge way, which is now that Boruto is back inside of Konoha and Amado has basically blown up this whole secret that Kawaki wasn't really Naruto's son, we have to ask the oh so important question of, is Kawaki about to get exposed now? Because a lot of you guys have hit me up saying that Kawaki is officially on fraud watch, and I will be honest, I definitely think we run the risk of this being true, but I also see one potential roadblock in a narrative way that will keep Kawaki from getting fully exposed. So as we all know, in the manga chapter, Amado tells Sumire that he knew all along that something wasn't right about that Kawaki fella. He took one look at the ninja tech in Kawaki's body and said, hey, hold up a second, this ain't right here. Naruto's son, he's not a cyborg. So why does this guy have my ninja tech in his body? That doofus Katasuke could never do something this good. Naruto's son, he shouldn't have the genetic data of my daughter inside of his karma seal. So what's going on here? Amado was able to quickly piece together that his memory had been altered and that he could no longer trust his memories, and the man kept it quiet to himself the entire time because it was in his best interest to do so. However, he slipped up here and said all this information while Sai was monitoring it remotely, and Shikamaru has now been made aware of everything, which means either Amado got too comfortable or Amado did this on purpose. So it does stand to reason that Amado is responsible for Kawaki being on fraud watch right now, because if Shikamaru was sipping on that omnipotence juice like he appeared to be, no longer questioning his memories, Amado's full confession just gave him a reason to do the one thing that Sarada has been begging him to do, which is speak to Boruto to find out the truth about what happened when Naruto was killed and what exactly has been going on these last 3 years. I think we all can agree that Shikamaru was well within his rights to do so, because as Hokage, he does need all the information, particularly when it's become clear that yet again Amado was holding out on him with vital intel, and now the threats outside the village are piling up in a major way. However, where I see there being potential roadblocks here is I can see the story giving us a swerve for the sake of conflict and doing so in a way that is completely in character for Boruto Uzumaki. At the end of Boruto Naruto Next Generations, Boruto stated that he wanted to end this dispute between brothers, and that for the first time he understood Kawaki on a deeper level, and it was hearing that speech that made Sasuke crack a smile out of nostalgia, because that was the same situation Naruto was in with Sasuke, and it's important for us to look over that in order to fully appreciate Boruto and Kawaki's situation and why it's more complicated than Boruto going into the Hokage's office saying, hey, that guy is a liar, I am Naruto's son, you see these baby blue eyes, or baby blue eye, I can't open the other eye, you see this blonde hair, you see these whiskers, silly Shikamaru, I'm really Naruto's son, I thought you had a 200 IQ, must be 2 IQ. Sasuke was someone that Naruto couldn't reach, because despite them being similar in a lot of ways, despite them being best friends, being close enough that they were almost like brothers, Naruto could never relate to Sasuke because he didn't know Sasuke's pain at that time. That's why in part 1 of Naruto, the only person who really got through to Sasuke when he was sliding on that edge of joining Orochimaru, it was Kakashi. He didn't flinch when Sasuke was sitting there saying, how would you react if I killed everyone that you cared about? Kakashi looked at him and said like, hey, that actually happened to me, man. You sitting there being all emo and brooding, but hey, I overcame it, and guess what? You're gonna overcome it too. Once you learn to accept that hole in your heart, it's actually been filled by your comrades, the comrades you have remaining, and the memories you're making with them. And he proceeded to leave Sasuke strung up in a tree to think things over. Kakashi could reach him, whereas Naruto couldn't. But Kakashi wasn't the one that would actually save Sasuke. It had to be Naruto. And see, Boruto's in that same spot with Kawaki right now. Boruto was this spoiled brat who had some similarities with Kawaki. That's why they hit it off in the way they did. They were both being used against their will by the Otsutsuki. They were both in the process of having their humanity stripped away from them in a literal sense, because with each passing moment, their human DNA was being overridden by karma, and eventually they would lose their souls so the Otsuki could actually be reborn using their body. However, Boruto never knew that feeling of loneliness that Kawaki went through. That feeling that someone truly lonely or has ever been truly lonely understands, which is how it feels when you are surrounded in a room full of people and yet you are still alone. You don't fit in because the things that you've been through in life, they change you in a way to where you don't really connect with normal people. I've been where Kawaki is, sitting at a dinner table with someone's family and not knowing how to feel because it's not something I ever experienced growing up. I get why Kawaki was so cold when it came to the idea of losing a close friend and being willing to hurt others for his own good, because I know that pain that comes from having a friend gunned down over getting caught up into gang stuff, and having another friend getting killed in front of their kid because they slept with the wrong person's girlfriend. Stuff like that makes you numb to friendships that you have left, and you build up a wall to keep yourself from getting too invested in someone because you know that they can go at any moment. Or you go the opposite end where you get so overprotective over them in the way that Kawaki did with Naruto. Kawaki did not want to lose Naruto under any circumstances, and he went to extremes to make sure that never happened. For Boruto, that feeling of being out of place, of bearing the hatred of people, hatred that he did nothing of his own fault to earn. It's something that Boruto's never had to experience. Just as Naruto needed to experience losing Jiraiya and being face to face with the person who killed Jiraiya in order to be able to have the right to face Sasuke and bring him back to the village, Naruto needed to undergo that. Boruto has to go through the burdens that he's going through right now to end this dispute between brothers between Kawaki. That doesn't happen by Boruto fully blowing up Kawaki's spot to Shikamaru. At best, I could see Boruto walking that middle line, saying something as ominous along the lines of Naruto isn't dead, but not dropping the full blame on Kawaki, because there are a few reasons for it. It's because Boruto now understands that pain and loneliness and the suffering that he's not going to force Kawaki back into that, which is exactly what would have happened if he reveals the truth right now. Boruto isn't petty enough to do that, in my opinion, because the experiences he's gone through, they've hardened him enough to where he sees the problem with doing that. And that's not to say that Kawaki never pays for what he's done, because he will pay for it. At the end of the day, this is a shonen, and it is a shonen that uses a lot of the writing points of gateway shonen. So he will pay for this at some point. But that point is not right now. Right now, Boruto's village is what he wants to protect, and it is safe right now. His sister, who Boruto loves dearly, she is doing well. Something that Boruto took note of when he saw her, going so far as to basically thank Kawaki for making sure that Himawari stayed alive. His parents are still alive. They're sealed away, but they're still alive. And he knows that whenever he decides to pull that trigger on taking down Kawaki, he can get them back and they won't be harmed. He's going to give Kawaki the chance to live life in Konoha, and if Kawaki loses everything that Boruto took for granted, it's going to be because of Kawaki's own actions. It's going to be because of him not being able to get past his need to want to kill Boruto, that Kawaki eventually loses it all and hands everything he stole back to Boruto. They have a bigger threat to deal with right now. This is bigger than the dispute between brothers we have. The shinjuu, they have evolved. They are hunting specific people. They have multiple people who they need to have saved that have been bitten by the claw grinds and that have been turned into a tree. They have code to deal with. There are bigger issues than Boruto and Kawaki's pissing contest. I think there's enough there that Boruto doesn't blow up Kawaki's spot right away. I said it a couple times here on the channel. I said it extensively in a collaboration I did with Simply Troy on his channel. Boruto Naruto Next Generations was a story of father and son, and the son slowly losing it all. Boruto 2 Blue Vortex is the story of one boy who has never known what it means to have wealth slowly lose it all, and the other boy who took that wealth for granted is slowly getting it back. It's part of their character arcs, but there are still bumps in the road that we got to go through. The Omnipotence being casted injected some much needed drama and suspense into the story in a very simple way, but it's simple and that's why it worked. We don't need that thing being completely resolved right now, not unless there's a bigger swerve that can take its place. There's actually something waiting to pulling the trigger on ending this plot line. I liken it to how Kishimoto let the story cook for a while, building up Orochimaru as this ominous threat who was in possession of Sasuke and was inching closer and closer to getting Sasuke's body, all while he built up the Akatsuki slowly and then swerved us by having Sasuke kill Orochimaru and then decide not to return to Konoha after doing so. I think we're seeing something similar being set up here. Code, for all his faults, taking L after L, one thing that Code did do effectively was he pushed the story forward in quite a few ways. We have these shinjuu who are being built up with each chapter as a bigger threat, all before they've really made a move. Amado is still being built up as having ulterior motives. He might not be evil, but he's walking the line of being that scientist who's too smart for his own good, and he might end up creating a threat without realizing it. If we move off of this omnipotence storyline of taking Boruto's life and exposing Kawaki's angle and making that whole thing right, then there has to be something equally good as a story in terms of conflict. I know a lot of you guys want Kawaki to pay for his actions right now. You've been calling for it ever since Omnipotence got casted, but I personally think we got to be patient. We still have to dig through a few more levels with Kawaki's character before we see him having to pay for his actions. To use a wrestling reference, if Kawaki is the heel in this story, which is the bad guy for those of you guys who don't watch wrestling, and Boruto's the babyface who everybody roots for, before you set up a heel to turn face, where the heel becomes a good guy, in order to do it properly, you need that heel to be so nuclear hot in terms of how much the fans hate and boo him. He's got to be so dastardly or so morally gray that just when you think that he can't go any further, he can't push your buttons any further, he subverts your expectations by helping out the good guy. I kind of feel like we're on that path with Kawaki, where if he does get exposed, it's only going to make him go deeper, and that runs the risk of a Tokyo Revengers type of story, which I won't go any further into it because I don't want to spoil people. But just as that manga pulled the trigger on something too early and it took the wind out the sails of the story, I think we run a similar risk here if we blow Kawaki up right now. I think we can set C4 on Kawaki. I think you might can even set off 1 or 2 bombs, but you can't completely blow up the whole ship. I do wonder though where you guys stand on this, because I do love reading your comments, because you guys leave some really detailed comments most of the time. In the meantime, click here to watch this chapter review that you see on the screen if you haven't already.